Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, bringing you another Old Man Orange Presents Via VHS episode. One of them from the rarities vault that we have from back in the day that just never got put out. So come join us for another fun-filled retro movie review. Let's jump on in.
So what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Via VHS podcast. We're doing Waterworld tonight. As always, I'm joined by Spencer Scott Holmes. And we're going back to 1995 and looking at the infamous Waterworld. We have a lot of opinions on this one. We're going to rewrite history a little bit maybe tonight regarding this film. But I go to Spencer with a very important question, a question that popped into my mind while watching Waterworld, something that my brother once asked me. Why aren't jet skis called motorcycles?
Motorcycles?
They should be called motorcycles.
I mean, that's kind of like what it is. I don't know why like that hasn't like kind of, because jet ski, it's kind of weird because it's like it doesn't really even sound like, I mean, I guess you're skiing across the water, but skiing, brings up, images of, not only water skiing, but snow skiing and things like that. So,
I just think it's a missed opportunity here. I mean, technically it doesn't make sense, but I mean, it's just motorcycle is really cool. I think you're opening yourself up to like, some counterculture like stuff. Like you could have like motorcycle gangs.
Mm-hmm. But you see, motorcycle, that reminds me of like, that would almost be like, it sounds like that could be also a good brand of jet skis as motorcycle. And I picture it just having a guy on there and he's got big sunglasses on and a trucker hat and a mullet. Mm-hmm. Motorcycles.
Yeah. I think it's that would be like the Harley of jet skis. And listen, jet skis are rad. I mean, we agree here. And there's a lot of them in Waterworld, which made me think of it. But I just think a motorcycle is a missed opportunity. And I mean, the smokers in this are technically a motorcycle gang. I mean, they kind of have that thing going on. I don't know. I just think that's just be really cool. You have like life vests that are leather with like patches. I just think it's awesome. Personal.
I think it's mostly because jet skis, it seems like the majority of people that own them always seem to be a little bit more like in like the yuppier, like richer upper class section of like life. So maybe that's why there's less like, it's not like you're going to go live on your like jet ski, and cross or, drive up and down like the coast.
I mean, you could.
You could. It's not saying it's out of the question.
Yeah. I mean, I just picture roaming motorcycle gangs just going across the Atlantic and, like you have your Hell's Angel equivalent. It'd just be awesome.
What makes now I want to see the Waterworld kind of like mix match of Stone Cold. That movie, the motorcycle gang, but instead it's all about jet ski gangs.
Right? Wouldn't that be fucking dope? Oh my God.
The title of the movie should just be Motorcycle.
The motorcycle. I mean, get Robert Rodriguez to do that because it's outlandish. Let's just be real. So you need, I like it. But anyway, Waterworld. So we're not just reviewing Waterworld. We're doing the Ulysses Cut, and the whole movie, I'm like, what's this called, the Ulysses Cut? And at the end of the movie, I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. But they try to keep Odysseus or Odyssey theme going on with somewhat kind of whole arc of the story.
Yeah, it's so this thing is like 3 hours long. It adds roughly like 45 minutes to the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a significantly more coherent thing. We'll obviously talk about that more in the review, but it's if you've never seen it, that's specifically what we're doing. We're doing Waterworld, we're doing the full extended cut, which a lot of people believe it makes it a better film. And the fan edit, which Ulysses Cut is technically a fan edit pulled from different places because extended cuts were on TV after Waterworld came out. And you watch this and you're like, it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, no, it adds a lot to it. It's one of those ones that I literally had to get. They made the Blu-ray copy of it, which is just so weird to think about because it's a Universal movie, but like it's like an Arrow, which, you know, Arrow mostly seems to bring out all like the cool niche, like B movies and foreign films and so on like that. So it's just so strange to have Universal kind of like attached with that. But I think that's literally the most expensive singular movie I've ever bought. I paid $50 for this thing like 3 or 4 years ago when it came out. And I remember it was one of those ones like I saw it at like an FYE. And, you know, since FYE is mostly always more expensive than other places. So I looked up real quick. I was like, well, how much is it going for on Amazon and eBay and so on like that? And it was like $65 there. So I was like, $50, a really good copy of Waterworld, because that's the downfall of Waterworld is that they always had like the DVD version was just kind of like a bare bones, you know. I'm not too sure. It might have been enhanced for widescreen, but I almost want to say it might not have at the same time too, because I remember there was a lot of reasons like why I was trying to look for a good copy of Waterworld. And so I was like, man, it's $50, but it is Waterworld. It's got special features. It's got, you know, not only just the regular theatrical version, it's got the TV version and the Ulysses like director's extended cut with all the scenes put in, plus a bunch of special features. I mean, it came with even like a cool little like booklet that's got, you know, stuff like art and all kinds of things in there and all kinds of behind the scenes stuff. You know, I mean, I know I'm doing a little show and tell stuff, but, you know, it's got like drawings and all extra stuff. You know, came with a poster too, because, you know, why not have a poster of Kevin Costner looking at you?
This is a great poster.
Oh yeah, fantastic! It has both posters. It has the modern Ulysses cut kind of a poster and like the original '95 one.
Both are pretty sexy.
But it was like one of those ones. I'm like, I don't think I've ever spent. I'm trying to think of even a movie that's even close, like a singular movie, not a collection, not a set, not anything like that. Like, that's the one that I probably dropped the most on, but it was totally well worth it in my book.
Yeah, I don't know how much I've ever... I mean, I think Indiana Jones one time I spent a lot of money on.
But it was probably the set, not just like a singular one, right?
Right. It was the whole set. A singular movie, I can't tell you how much I've spent, but it's not as much as that. As
I say, I don't think I could think of a movie that I probably spent more than $30 on that was like a singular one, maybe. Yeah. That probably would have been like the highest. That
would be my limit, probably. I'm like, $50, but it is really cool. You do get a lot with it because this film, like, it is infamous. And what's weird is that, you know, we'll get into all the controversy around. Well, I don't know if you use the word controversy, but it's just all the, you know, things that were said about it when it came out. And, you know, all the discussion about the budget and it being a flop, which is not true.
No, it made tons of money.
It made tons of money. I mean, it's not a huge financial success either, but it's definitely not a flop like they you know, made it out to be. And it was panned before it even hit screens. It was already, you know, it was kind of doomed to fail. And then, you know, obviously the production was just terrible. But yeah, this is the film, like, you know, it really benefits from having this extra cut, this extra footage, you know, the full scope of what was meant to be. But it's funny because I was reading the trivia. This film was originally meant to be a Roger Corman film, like a low budget Roger Corman film. And you think about it, it's weird. This movie's like such a high budget film and it's got a cult following, like you would think of like a small B movie.
Yeah, it comes out on Arrow for the Blu-ray copy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's treated like a cult movie, but at the time it was the most expensive movie ever made. And I just think it's funny that I went from like a Roger Corman production, which if you don't know about Roger Corman, infamously cheap. Like it's just going to be like this thing was going to be filmed in a pond, like you know, and I don't know how they would have done this. It was obviously very different. But it goes from this tiny little B movie Roger Corman thing to this massive, just gigantic, you know, epic. And then, you know, then it was released into mixed reviews. But I think we should just go ahead and jump into a rewind review. I think we have a lot to say about this movie.
I think so. I know I do.
All right. Well, let's fire up the rewind review. heard in our Stroker Ace episode, where we've kind of revamped things a little bit. As we go into the rewind review, we like to, just the nostalgic part. You go back in time and you look at what the world was when Waterworld came out. So we like to look at the music and we like to look at the box office. And the box office is going to be very interesting for this one because it's so much discussion. I mean, this movie is kind of tied to its box office. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. So I think we should start with the music this week. Because we'll definitely have a lot to say about the box office. But we're looking at the top 5. This is the Billboard charts, Hot 100 from July 29th, 1995. This film was released on the 28th, but, split hairs at that point. Number 5, a song that I could talk about forever. I got the CD down just to bring it up because I'm fascinated by this song, and we won't spend too much time on it. But you're going to see Waterworld. This might be, playing in your car, your boat. Kiss from a Rose. Your motorcycle. Your
motorcycle. That's the only thing you're driving to Waterworld. Come on, let's be honest.
Your motorcycle. I don't know how you're going to get it there, but yeah. Kiss from a Rose by Seal.
Oh, I
see.
The
Batman Forever soundtrack.
And that's the thing, too, is like that song is so, to me, nostalgic in 1995. And I think Batman, that's 100% what I think when I hear that song. I don't think anything else but Batman Forever.
Listen, I got to talk about this real quick. The audacity to think for somebody to be like, oh, this song's going to work for Batman. And it actually works so, especially in the video, it works so well. I would have been the guy like, okay, we're a few months out, right, before Batman Forever comes out. Schumacher comes in and still tells a really great story about how this song happened. But he comes into the room and he's like, okay, this is going to be our tie-in song for Batman Forever. I have to be honest. I would have been the guy at the table. I would have been like, listen, that song's awesome. But, it's not going to work for Batman. What I probably would have done, I don't know what studio did First Night, but it came out around the same time as Batman Forever. I'm like, hey, sell this song to the people for First Night so they can have their tie-in song because it's got that medieval kind of, it does not sound like it'd work for Batman, but it fucking does so well.
It's so weird, and it's so tied to that movie that it's one of those ones that, like, as I said, like a lot of times when I used to do that DJing, like I would just play that song, and in my mind, I'm thinking Batman. I know nobody else probably is singing the same thing as much, but that's what I would utilize that one is like because all the songs I do were from movies. That's how I know a song generally. Yeah.
That song is it's amazing that it works so well. But we'll eventually discuss Batman Forever. We'll do a review on it. Maybe by the time we get to Batman Forever, the Schumacher cut will be available to us.
Gosh, I know that speaking of, extra extended versions, that's what I'm really waiting for. Like,
well, Epic Film guys, Justin and Loisos when they saw it.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Go shout out to Epic Film guys. Go listen to their episode on it. They, Kevin Smith did a thing and teased that he might show it. And I listened to their episode on it. It was really, really good. They drove to, I think it was in New Jersey. That makes sense because Kevin Smith, but I think I know they drove a little bit. They went to this thing and at like 3:00 in the morning, they showed the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever and they saw it and they do an episode on it. So
yeah, I was just waiting for that to even just get leaked to the internet or something like that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they're like testing the waters. Like, hey, can we, do a special 4K release of this? Let's see if there's what kind of interest is out there.
Mm-hmm. I would buy it instantly, even if they charge me $50 for it.
Yeah. Go listen to it. Epic Film guys. They're like there's probably less than a theater full of humans, like a big theater. Like think of an AMC big theater. Mm-hmm. The amount of people that seen that cut probably wouldn't fill up one of those theaters. So pretty cool. Number 4, Boombastic in the Summertime by Shaggy.
Oh, yeah.
Don't Take It Personal. Just One of Those Days by Monica at number 3. The Notorious B.I.G. at number 2 with One More Chance / Stay With Me. And at number 1, don't go chasing waterfalls. Don't do it.
Just don't do it. It's dangerous. People die where I'm at if you chase waterfalls. They drowned all the time, so... It happens every year, so you gotta be careful with those waterfalls.
Well, TLC tried to warn everyone about it, and nobody listened.
No,
Because that's what the song is actually about, is waterfalls. Everybody thinks it's a deeper meaning. It's about waterfalls.
Hey, waterfalls are pretty deep.
Yeah, well, some of them.
Yeah, and they'll push you down pretty deep if you get close to them.
Yeah, listen, I just want to say, if you don't fuck with TLC, get out. I love TLC. I really do. Anyway, so yeah, there's your top 5 songs, Billboard Hot 100 for July 29th, 1995. Let's go over to the box office. So here's a discussion about Waterworld. There's even this famous clip from Joe Rogan on YouTube where he's talking about Waterworld, and he's talking about how much of a flop it was and how disastrous it was. And this is, almost 30 years on from the movie being released, and it still has the stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
And this film was barely profitable. And as a matter of fact, with marketing, I'm going to go ahead and say it probably wasn't profitable in the box office. But once you sell at the TV, home video, and all that stuff, it became profitable. And it made 32 million. It opened at number 1. 32 million. It still made money. This film is it's not John Carter.
Well, no, that's the thing. It's like John Carter's a great movie, but
yeah.
It's one of those ones where the thing is if the movie just didn't cost a whole lot, then it's one of those movies that, like, if it would have just cost a normal sum of, like, let's just say it cost like $70 million, this movie would have been like, looked on, like, man, this thing did gangbusters. You know what I mean? And the thing is it took a moment for it to get that money back, because by the end of the day, it's like it's over $200 million when ads and everything else is said and done. But yeah, it made 32, and that's just domestic right off the bat. That's just the first weekend alone. I think overseas it made like 180 million. So that practically paid the majority of it back. And we haven't even got the home video yet, / we haven't got to, this movie stayed in theaters for a while too. That's the thing, is this was one of the top movies of the year.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the bust they make it out to be. It really, really isn't. I mean, it's not Cutthroat Island. Like that's a bust, and I love that. We love that movie, but
great movie too. But yeah,
it's no. I don't understand what happened with this, but it's like there was. I don't know if this was an anti-Kevin Costner thing that was going on or what it was, but the media just created, and I can remember this. They created this narrative around it before the movie even came out. They had already decided that this was, and then when it didn't do as bad as they thought it was going to do, they still panned it, and they didn't deviate from that narrative at all. They just kept going with it, and it's just not completely true.
No, and I think it's that weird one that it felt like people turned. This was a moment where people turned on Kevin Costner, almost like when women turned on Tom Cruise for jumping on the couch. Like, and I don't know what's the exact moment that makes everybody sort of turn on Kevin Costner, but he kind of, I think, once he shot up to super fame with Dances with Wolves, and then he had Robin Hood that followed, because I always say Kevin Costner is the last pretty much major actor to have epic, ginormous scale movies. And you might even say, some people might even say that he might be the reason why we lost the epic movies, because all those movies that he had cost a crap ton of money, and they just had a hard time like making like grand profit, because Dance with Wolves was like the first one of his like epic runs. That thing makes gangbusters, works out, everything there too. Then he does Robin Hood. Robin Hood still works out, still does good, still makes a lot of money. But then when it's coming into, I think actually Wyatt Earp comes before. Comes before Waterworld, and Wyatt Earp just has a hard time competing with Tombstone. That's just the only one there. And I'm in that boat where, like, don't get me wrong, I love Tombstone, but I actually like that Wyatt Earp one way more.
Well, we're disagreeing on this one.
As I said, I don't think there's anybody else. There's very few people out there that agree with me on that one, but I just always felt like Wyatt Earp seems like the extended cut of like Tombstone.
I mean, it's probably a more realistic, grounded, historically accurate version of those events, but it doesn't have Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. What's his name? Yeah, Dennis Quaid, not Randy Quaid, but Randy Quaid. But as we kind of go through, it's like then you get Waterworld too, and then that one just kind of struggles a bit to make like that gangbusters money that Dances with Wolves made, and then even The Postman falls in that same prey, and The Postman's another amazing
amazing film, but like it was just people were turning on Kevin Costner, and these movies were probably still getting kind of out of control spending wise. That's definitely that, but that's almost like those movies like Wyatt Earp, Waterworld, Postman, Robin Hood, and even Dance with Wolves, like all those movies right there, those 5 films, like the scope and the presence of those movies and the way they look and just how big and glorious they are. It's like they just don't make movies like that anymore. Whenever I see these films, it's like you do not get movies like that. You know, nowadays movies feel so kind of compressed, and you know, you feel like you're just watching a big stage play that happens to have a bunch of like, you know, screens around it doing special effects. Like that's what they consider an epic movie nowadays, but it's like they just don't get those ones where they just got these ridiculous, vast, you know, real worlds going on.
Yeah. It's certainly, you don't see a whole lot of practical films like this anymore. What's funny is the film that this is always tied to Mad Max, because it is, the joke is it's Mad Max on water, and it is.
And that's where the Roger Corman thing comes, because that was, you know, Roger Corman was like, hey, let's do a Thunderdome in a sense. And then someone's like, hey, I got a script for that. Pretty much it's Mad Max on the water. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's another reason why I love this movie so much growing up is like, I love Mad Max. Mad Max was like a family movie. That's like, we watched The Living Daylights out of Road Warrior and Thunderdome and even the original Mad Max. And it's just one of those ones. So like Waterworld just felt like that was Mad Max 4 in my book.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And I love Mad Max too. It's one of my favorite franchises. And this film has a lot of similarities to it. I mean, it's this dystopic, you know, kind of thing with crazy vehicles that are kind of like clunky and smoky and like, you know, all dirty and like way past their expiration date. And, you know, you're living in this crazy world, but oh man, filming on water, it's notoriously stupid. Like people know this is not like Spielberg explicitly told them not to do it, not to film in the ocean. Like go get your big tank. But we'll get to more of that. So, but yeah, real quick, the rest of the box office here, just for perspective, what's going on here. Waterworld, number 1 at the box office, 32 million. Number 2 is a little film that I want us to review in the next couple of months, because I've actually never seen it all the way through. I've only seen bits and pieces. And I think down the road, it's got so much more perspective you can give to it. But it's The Net, Sandra Bullock.
God, I know I saw that movie a long time ago on TV, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. It's been that long.
Yeah, I have a feeling it would be pretty funny these days. I think you're gonna have a lot of 90s hacker stuff in there, which is always fun to watch.
I like that stuff anyways. I just, I love old computers and any of that kind of fun old stuff.
Yeah, we're speculating on this. Somebody who's seen this is like, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking. Number 3, one of the best films of the 90s. It's, I think, top 3 for me. So good. Apollo 13. Oh
yeah, classic.
Yeah, Apollo 13 is what I consider almost a perfect film. It's just it's basically flawless. And this has been out a couple of weeks at this point. Clueless at number 4. Oh
yeah, another humongous film.
Opening this week along with Waterworld and The Net is a film called Operation Dumbo Drop. The Disney film.
I remember seeing that one too.
Yeah, I didn't see it in theaters, and
I don't think I saw it in theaters. I saw Clueless in theaters though. I went to my friend's birthday party, and that was what she wanted to see. So that was when I saw Clueless, and it was like fantastic.
Yeah, my first little, like, I guess not really a girlfriend, but kind of girlfriend was like, "Hey, let's go to the theaters, and with mom and dad will drop us off, and we'll see Clueless." I'm like, "Whatever you want to do, I don't care." But
this is more like my surrogate sister, I guess you would sort of say.
Yeah. This is my little crush I had. But yeah, so Waterworld, number 1 at the box office. But we went back to 1995, revisited it. Let's go ahead and dive into this film, because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about with this one. And again, just a reminder, we watched the Ulysses cut, the full 3-hour thing. We watched it. Oh, you watched your...
I watched my expensive Blu-ray that I like to keep bringing up for show and tell, because when you pay $50 for it, I want everybody to see that.
Yeah, I would too. I want to get your money's worth out of that. Yeah. I watched it on Internet Archive.
Internet Archive has been one of my new favorite places for, like, when I can't find something anywhere else in the world. that place a lot of times banned cartoons from back in the day, old movies you can't find anywhere else. Even
Song of the South is on
comics. There. Yes, I know. I downloaded it from there too because I'm always afraid that those things are going to get, just like the Mario Brothers extended cut, it's going to get taken down. So I might as well have a digital copy of it. And all these old films, like.
Yeah, that Song of the South cut too looked like remastered. It looked good.
I was reading some of the comments there, and it sounded like it might have come from in like Australia or somewhere like that. Was like the only place that they ever released a DVD of it, like something like that.
Yeah, it looked good. I mean, it really looked good. You feel how you want to about Song of the South, but
it's still historic. Now that was Walt Disney. He thought he was. I remember I was listening to a book recently that was all about history and animation, and he legitimately thought he was like, "I'm in the right with this. I'm just trying to make a movie about all my favorite black folks and all that stuff." Like he wasn't doing anything. He thought he was on the right page right there. Old Uncle Walt was going for it.
Yeah. I think it benefits his legacy. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but so maybe it doesn't. I don't know. So anyway, but yeah, Internet Archive. If you can't find stuff, a lot of times it's on there. We watched the that like cut of the 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie. Yep. That's where I watched it. Was on there.
Yeah, and that's perfect examples that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, like it got taken down, that one Nintendo wise, but that's why I made sure I downloaded it. So.
Oh, so you still have it? Yeah,
I'm keeping it alive.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Internet Archive. If you want to find something crazy that's not available, they might have it. The only place you can listen to the very first 2 episodes of Via VHS is there, because I lost all the stuff, and I just typed in Via VHS. I'm like, oh my god, that's like the first episode, first 2 episodes. But yeah, so. I'm going to default to you a lot on this because I thought I was going to do a better job of realizing what was new and what wasn't. And I definitely did not remember. So I'm going to be defaulting to you about what's new and what isn't, what scenes were there and what weren't. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say this. You know what makes that kind of confusing, though, is because growing up, I watched so much of this movie on TV. So I think by watching the TV version, I never put 2 and 2 together that the TV version was extended back in the day. I just thought that was more the normal version, So the TV version carries 35 minutes extra of footage. So the majority of those extra scenes are already in there. And then, so it is a little bit more kind of confusing. What are some of the excess ones that like are in the Ulysses cut? Now, in the Ulysses cut, you do get one more Jack Black scene. That's one of the main ones that I noticed that's in there. You get the one with Jack. Yeah,
I mean, that's worth the $50 you paid right there.
Yeah, you get that, and there's some of those other ones like those ones there. It's not like all the big stuff. It's not like they cut necessarily the action out. Like, it's not like any of that stuff. It's more just all these extra little scenes, especially like, I guess you would say the second act of the movie, like once they leave the atoll or whatever, that's where I think you start getting the majority of your extended scenes is in there.
It felt like that. Yeah. Watching it, because was Bath Salt Robin Williams in the creepy guy that they pick up with a finger? Is that theatrical, or is that like extended cut person? I
think that one's extended cut for sure too. Yeah. At least it's definitely TV cut. I know that scene's not in the original version.
I do remember seeing it before, but I was sitting there watching it like, if you're going to cut something out of this film, I like that scene, but you could take it out and it doesn't affect the movie at all.
Yeah, it's totally a bonus scene. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, because it's like a weird scene, sort of like in Apocalypse Now, which is one of my favorite scenes that strangely enough, Francis Ford Coppola cut it out of his 3rd version of the movie, but it's in the 2nd version of the movie and the Redux version. But there's that one weird, the reason I like it, it's just so bizarre and it makes absolutely no sense and it makes you wonder what the hell is going on there. But like when they find it's like raining out and they go to like the Playboy Bunny's like helicopter that's crashed, And once again, nothing doesn't explain any of it there, and they're just all like messed up, and you're like, what the hell has happened to all these people here, and so on like that, and it's just become like primal. There's like that dude running there just naked in the rain. You're like, they're just stopping to get fuel, and I that's what that scene kind of in Waterworld. It's not nearly as weird as the Apocalypse Now one is, but it does have that kind of creepy, like you don't know what's going to happen. Like, is this where the movie's going to get real dark all of a sudden, and so on like that?
It's exceptionally rapey. It's like, this is 2 weeks in a row because we had that Burt Reynolds scene last week, which was super uncomfortable.
Well, God, that Burt Reynolds. If that wasn't Burt Reynolds, let's just be honest. If that was anybody, if that was like Gary Busey or something like that, or Nick Nolte, like, or Pauly Shore, I'm,
Christopher Walken. Walken's got, that's weird.
Burt Reynolds is like one of the fewest guys that could probably get away with that. Be like, well, it's okay. It was Burt, but anybody else, that could have been so scary and darker more than it was. But yeah, you get this guy who's doing the most like Robin Williams like impression.
He looks like him a little bit.
That's what I thought. It's like, I'm like, that felt like the most ones like they wanted Robin Williams, but like, let's just get this guy who's doing a Robin Williams impression.
Yeah, I'll have to look at who that guy is in a second. So, but let's go through the credentials, I guess, of the film.
Yes.
Waterworld 1995, directed by Kevin Reynolds, obviously starring Kevin Costner, Jean Triplehorn, Dennis Hopper, Tina Majorino, if you don't know who that is, Napoleon Dynamite Girl, Glamour Shots. So that's pretty much, the bulk of your cast. And what is that guy's name? He played Michael Jeter. Who was first of all, I think he did a lot of stuff on Sesame Street with Elmo. But he was also the mousy guy in Green Mile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love that guy. He passed away, I think, right after Green Mile. Maybe he didn't even make it to when Green Mile was released. I might be wrong about that, but Michael Jeter, love that guy. You'll see him on old stuff of Sesame Street. My kids have watched him. He'll pop up there doing like skits with Elmo, but he was awesome. But and some semi-recognizable faces in there. And as you mentioned, Jack Black, which I think he might be only in the extended cut.
I think so, because I want to say he's still the plane scenes. Of course, he's still in. I want to say that's still in the theatrical version where he comes flying by, and when the lady ends up shooting the harpoon at the plane. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that part's still there. It's just one of those ones like when he's in the plane, it's kind of hard to tell that's Jack Black. Yeah,
you wouldn't know unless like you were told. I think it's. But heads up, Jack Black's in it, and this is a small part. But so directed by Kevin Reynolds, starring Kevin Costner, in a future where the polar ice caps have melted and Earth is almost entirely submerged, a mutated mariner fights starvation and outlaw smokers and reluctantly helps a woman and a young girl try to find dry land. This MacGuffin is land in the film. So this was a big one for you as a kid, right?
This was like Batman Forever big when I just remember watching this all the time. It was just like one of those ones, like if it was on TV, you just would turn it on, even if it was in the background, you just watched it continuously for like, because that's the thing is this movie's like, I think where its true success was and where it really found its major audience more than anything was it became like sort of like a Beastmaster type movie where like the TV audience was really like its core group and so on like that. And just it was replayed a lot. Just you not only on TBS or TNT, but Action Channel, Encore, like all those one stars, like they just all kind of carried this film I remember for a long time, and just everything about this movie. I just thought like it's just a cool action flick, and as I said, that Mad Max kind of vibe, like it's one of those things. It's like Die Hard, when they kind of have like the it's like a Die Hard knockoff bottle film. Like that's like one of those ones that you really never could go wrong with that. It's even sort of like the Mad Max thing. You know what I mean? Like you give the Mad Max like aesthetic to something, it's mostly always pretty interesting. I mean, at some point you'll eventually burn it out, but this is, to me, I feel is a much more fresher take than many of the other things that rip off Mad Max, because the whole water aspect is like, it's got that post-apocalyptic world, but the water thing's something that nobody else ever touches. Everybody's in the desert always, you know what I mean? They're always doing literal Mad Max, where this one's kind of going, well, we're going to do that, but in a completely different environment. We're going to be out on the open seas. We're going to have people that it's kind of the interesting thing is I like how they don't tell a whole lot about when this is supposed to be. Like, I'm always kind of guessing, like, what do you think it is? You think it's like 300 years or something later? Like, it doesn't feel like it's not just like a couple generations. It's definitely a while.
Well, that's the biggest. Okay. So here's the thing with this movie. You have to let go of scientific reasoning because this movie, I mean, just even the fact that it's sunny all the time. I was reading that this movie, if this was to happen, it would be more like Camino in Star Wars, where it's like raining and it's just a deluge all the time. So there's a lot of like stuff like that. And then also the fact that, you know, Kevin Costner's character, we're definitely getting into spoilers if you've never seen this, but he's, you know, a mutant. And so he's evolved to this world, but he's done it pretty quickly because it seems like it's been only a few hundred years. They've suggested in IMDb, I was reading that it's like 2,500, like it's the year 2,500 is what they've said. But other people have said it's like 300 years, which seems a little bit more accurate. But like the time frame thing, there's a lot of continuity issues with this movie, but I don't let it bother me. I just enjoy the story. But you definitely have to let go of some of that because it's the fact that he's evolving after just a few hundred years. The fact that like all these smokers are, where are they getting these fucking cigarettes?
Well, that's the thing is like, I think that's the stuff that it is because a lot of the stuff they have in Jack Daniels and so on like that, like if it's 500 years, I don't think any of that stuff's going to be good. You know what I mean?
No. Well, maybe
even 300 years is kind of a stretch, but, there's, you gotta have a little bit of suspension of disbelief. You know, like the Kevin Costner one, I could probably say, maybe he's kind of like Godzilla. Like he's got a little bit more radiation in him, and that's how he sort of evolved faster. Like I'll go sort of like a almost like a Marvel superhero thing. You know, he got a little bit of radiation in him when he's diving deep down, and you know, like something's happened there.
Some things about this suggest it's in the far, far, far distant future, and some things suggest it's been, you know, a couple hundred years. I mean.
And some stuff feels like it, like, yeah, sometimes it feels like it's only been like a cut. Like if it wasn't by what some people have said, like if you just sort of like looked at the movie and didn't listen to like what they're saying, it feels like it's only a couple generations, like after like, because I just feel a lot of the stuff that's in the movie that like they kind of find would be, if it's like, you know, even just like 100 years later would be completely gone. Like you wouldn't be able to pull a National Geographic magazine out of the ocean and have it not be like destroyed. Literally, it'd be destroyed in like 1 year. But it was none of that stuff's gonna last that long. But who knows? It probably could have been in like a watertight box, and so you know, there's all sorts of things. Kevin Costner's got a lot of time on his hands. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot of continuity issues with this film, and even just the polar ice cap thing by itself. I read that if they melted, it still wouldn't completely submerge the earth. It would just rise a few hundred feet. I mean, this part of North Carolina that I'm in will probably be underwater, but maybe Appalachian mountains wouldn't be. So it was a stretch from the beginning. But the world is really, really cool. It is very Mad Maxy, but it's in some areas they don't go far enough with it because like they have different words for things that they use. They have a different way of speaking. So like water is hydro and different things like that. But I wish they would have went a little further with it because it feels like, because they can't read, they don't really have a real culture. But I feel like wish they would have just added a little bit more of that in there just for some world building. But you know, I think that's what Kevin Costner has a lot with his character, that people just thought he was being wooden and dull, but he, you know, there's language issues.
Well, it's kind of funny because I was watching the trailer beforehand just to kind of give a little refresher and so on like that. And in that trailer, they really presented out like it's like this, like it's almost like a family movie where it's like Kevin Costner and this lady, Helen, and the girl, and it's like they getting together to find draw light. It's like fun, like Will's was like that trailer's written so differently because Kevin Costner's just more like he doesn't want anything to do with these people. These people keep getting in his way the whole time. You know what I mean? Like if it was up to him, he would trade him off to the Robin Williams guy in a heartbeat. But you know what? one of those ones. Like he just really is that guy who's just like, leave me alone, let me go deep dive and hang out and enjoy my tomatoes.
Yeah, like in the Mad Max movies, Max is a little standoffish, but he has compassion. He likes the little kid and stuff. Kevin Costner takes it to another level. He's like, I'm just going to chuck this kid off a boat. Like, just no compassion. Like, he just looks at what's going on. It's like, oh, you know what? Things would be better if I just chucked the kid off the boat. She could stay because she's fine, but the kid can go. So yeah, it's hilarious just how he's so nonchalant about chucking that little girl off the boat, which is probably my favorite part of the movie, honestly.
Oh yeah, well it's funny too because it's like really that just feels like Kevin Costner, like because that's the thing is Kevin Costner feels like he's like one of those actors like he always plays those kind of characters anyway, so it's like that just seems like kind of like that's like him. It's like in Man of Steel with Kevin Costner. Beyond, though. I guess, but there's that part of Man of Steel when like he's literally telling Clark, he'd be like, yo, what you doing saving that bus? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, but yeah, they're gonna die.
About that.
Well, maybe they should die. Like, you know what? Tommy's on that bus. I hate that kid.
Yeah,
he's always driving his stupid, like 250cc bike around. Just the two-stroke in it, the middle of the night. You know what? I was hoping he was gonna die. Like, what are you doing? Don't let anybody know. Like, like it's just like that's not really doesn't feel like Papa Ken. That definitely feels like Kevin Costner. Like, you know what? Yeah. I chucked the girl off a boat when I.
Yeah, but I think chucking the girl off the boat is still a little beyond Kevin Costner. It's more Alec Baldwin, I think. See, that is, I mean, that's just, oh my God. Yeah. So, okay. So here's the thing. So Waterworld, it's an indefinite amount of time to the future. Shit's waterlogged. That's all you got to know. There's no dry land. They don't think. And some people believe it, but it's like a myth. It's like a legend. It's like, just please God, let there be dry land somewhere. And, everybody's living on these atolls, essentially, these like little islands that have been built out of just, I guess, things that they found washed up, old remnants of human society. Everything's rusted, dirty, fallen apart. And they're in a time where it's this society that's been clinging on and this little system that they've created to keep the human race going, keep everything alive, is actually falling apart now. It's not sustainable anymore. So that's kind of where people kind of want to find dry land at this point. And then you have Dennis Hopper and the Smokers who are like desperately trying to find dry land because they want to build a golf course. And then in the middle of all this, you have this young girl, Enola. You don't know where she came from. She washed up at the atoll in a basket like Moses, and which is ridiculous. But and she's got a tattoo on her back, which is stays fresh, looks good. Yeah. Like one of the best tattoo artists left on planet Earth just happened to be there. And she's got this tattoo on her back that says it's a map to dry land. So she's kind of like everybody's fighting over this little girl, but nobody likes her simultaneously. Everybody can't stand her.
Yeah,
she's a sweet little girl. She's the
nicest girl. Yeah, like what does she do like when the lights go out or something to these people? You know what I mean? Like it creates such hostility. And it's weird because it's like these people there, like the second that Kevin Costner shows up, like Man with No Name style, they're like, hey, you want to bang our daughter? We need a fresh seed here. Like nobody else can do it anymore. Like we've done too much incest. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, don't leave yet. Like they're literally getting desperate at this point. And Kevin Costner's just like, nah, don't need it. Like man time by myself. Give me all your water. Give me your damn plants. I'm out of here.
Yeah. That character seems like what he would have done is actually take her. Be like, bone her a few times, kick her off the boat.
If this was a 70s movie, if this was like that version of it, when you have the very anti-hero type characters, like that would have been what would happen. He would have just taken a couple other things while he was there, it just not cared in the world, at all.
Yeah, Kevin Costner, he the Mariner, he doesn't have a name yet. Yeah. He goes up, he's on his like crazy ass boat which was really cool. I love the design of that boat. It's amazing. And goes up to the atoll. He's trading in dirt, which is his currency, which makes me more frustrated about the cigarettes because I'm thinking, so dirt's this big currency. Paper, people are, fascinated with, and anything organic like plant life. It's just huge currency. And these smokers are just walking around with, paper and tobacco.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's a lot of money you're, throwing away. And also, where did you get it? But that's another story. So yeah, he strides up on this atoll. He's got a jar of dirt. You don't know where he got it from. And he trades it in, gets a lot of cash, and it obviously draws a lot of attention and ire from the people there. Some of them want him to bang his daughter. Some of them want him dead. And then they end up finding out he's a mutant. He's got gills behind his ears.
So they start to get a little racy the second that they find that out, and they're like, you know what? Let's compost this man.
Yeah, throw him in the yeah. That's gosh. I mean, it's a clever way of doing it, but can't you just throw these people in the ocean? Like,
well, they want, see, that's the whole point. They need to compost them because that's the only way they can, because they still have gardens there and so on. So yeah, it's like that's their like circle of life thing there, is by composting people. So you think these people are nice people until they are like, wait a second, we're going to compost this man who's who turns down our daughters.
Yeah. They become suspicious of him that he has all this money. They think he's a smoker spy, some of them. So they have a giant meeting about him.
So they got a smoker spy sitting there already.
Yeah. So Jean Triplehorn is her character Helen is kind of fascinated by the man and advocates for his not being turned into compost. And there's a lot of discussion. And one thing I do know for a fact is not in the theatrical cut that was in this cut, is where they start like lobbying to not only get rid of Jean Triplehorn's character Helen, but the little girl too. They're like, get this, like the smokers want her. We know that she's valuable because she's got this map on her, this tattoo. Get her out of here. And so right when they're getting ready to compost Kevin Costner, that's when the smokers show up. There's this big battle scene, and that scene is amazing.
That's that one that's like, it's one of the best, like action scenes. I mean, that's why they created the Waterworld ride, or like in a sense play at Universal Studios, that still is there today, which always blows my mind, because it's the fact that once again, people always want to kind of, forget about this movie, but it's like that ride is like still the biggest one attraction there, and it always holds up. It's always one of the coolest things because they just recreate that whole battle scene in a sense in a little bit different ways. But yeah, just that whole scene, and that's like, that happens in the first hour, and you get this ginormous action scene where the smokers invade, and like, really, the smokers, I think, is one of the coolest villains. Dennis Hopper, I feel like, chews the scenery so well in this one. This might be one of his best movies of all time. I mean, in my opinion, it's like this one and him playing Bowser are like two of the best ones.
Dennis Hopper in this is so good.
So good.
The thing is there's definitely a comedic element to his character. One of the complaints I do have about the film is that they didn't understand the tone of the bad guys. So Dennis Hopper is a little campy and a little funny, but he's also dangerous and maniacal and evil and twisted, and which leads to him being kind of funny. So, but with the rest of the bad guys, there's a little bit of more camp, a little bit more silliness. And it doesn't work as well. Like the whole Jack Black scene, it is funny. Like, they killed Earl, but it doesn't feel like it fits in the same movie. With how serious.
So some of those smokers are a little bit almost like too goofy, and then they do that thing where they're practically slipping on banana peels once in a while,
Yeah, Schumacher Batman villains.
Yeah, they definitely sometimes go a little bit much into that direction. But even just like the overallness of like the smokers, I just think just like the idea, like you got these guys, they're just these like pirate raiders. They're always smoking cigarettes the whole time. You know what I mean? Or I was gonna say not motorboating it, but what's the word? Motorcycling it all over. Deep diving with them and everything like that. They got the last plane known to mankind, literally flying around still. That's always the impressive thing. Is like I think about all these engines. How do these engines have been lasting for this?
Don't think about it. You can't.
Yeah,
you can't.
You can't. You got to give a little bit of magic. You know, a little bit of Waterworld radiation magic.
Yeah, there's something going on here. Like it's just things are falling apart. The scope of that scene, the practical effects. It's first of all these atolls that they built.
It's a full set.
It's a full set. I read it's the size of a football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the production designers, they told them how big it was. They thought they were joking. They fly out there. It's massive. They had to fly in all these special parts to an airport, and they had to clear out the runway. That's why this film ballooned. It not only is it difficult to film on water, and you run into all kinds of problems that you wouldn't even think of. Like I was reading through the trivia and getting anxiety, thinking about how difficult it is just to shoot on the water. But then you consider they have these sets that are just insane. But boy, they utilize them. It looks so just the jet skis going around, the airplane, all the style, all the thing. It's such a big spectacle. It really is insane.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, even for all the difficulties that it goes through to shoot on water, I will say at the end of the day, all those movies that are made on the water, though, they do pull it off really well. Like, that's the thing is that the end result, even if it costs an arm and a leg, literally, like, does become pretty awesome. Though I do think with the water, it's kind of funny because if it's like, dude, I thought they figured out this water thing in the 40s because literally on like the Seahawk with like Errol Flynn for that movie, they have in Warner Brothers, they had literally a pool room like indoors where you could fit 2 complete size pirate ships next to each other in there. So you could do pirate battles indoors, you know, and those things are like marvelous looking in that film, you know? So it's kind of funny how like they kind of had that dialed in. Granted, on an older movie, you could kind of, especially I think that movie's black and white, so you could kind of get you could kind of get a little bit more away and make it still look like it is outdoors, but you know you wouldn't notice it the same way that like this movie here needs that scope. And as I said, that's what makes it such a marvelous spectacle.
This movie, this is a hot take. You know how I feel about practical effects and how important they are. This movie, if you are a fan of set pieces, practical effects, real explosions, great costumes, just aesthetic out the ass, this movie has it in space. I mean, this is one of the most. That's why it was the most expensive movie ever made at the time. It spares no expense on just the look and the feel of the film. But I will say this: I'm not advocating for getting rid of any of the, the practical effects in this film. But this is a film that would have benefited greatly from modern CGI. Taking the land out of the background, so you don't have to worry about where you're shooting all the time and having everything set up in the right place. Yeah, like Mad Max Fury Road's a great example. Like there's CGI in there, and it actually has a pretty big role, but you don't notice it. Yeah, and I that was one thing about if they shot this film today, if they made like a sequel to it, that type of CGI would really benefit. It would bring the cost down tremendously because aerial shots of the atoll, that's fine. You know what I mean? As long as you build it practically, you don't explore that whole thing anyway. You don't need all of it, to be practical. So it would have benefited a lot, I think, this film, if it would have been made like 5 years later.
Well, it's funny too because this movie does have a little bit of CG in it, like that. Like, because I want to say this movie is one of the first movies to really utilize some extra fire CG. Like when they are on the big tanker towards the end, there's that, and then of course there's the sea monster that's like the one mutate thing that's in there that's like CG that eats Kevin Costner for a second, Which that's the scene I remember. Like sometimes I always forget about that scene. It's like, oh yeah, there's that weird CG monster thing that's in there for a second.
I thought it looked pretty well though.
No, it does look good though. I mean, for 1995 CG, it's pretty dialed in.
Yeah, it reminded me of the fish from episode 1, Phantom Menace, that first gets a hold of the. Yeah.
There's always a bigger fish.
Always a bigger fish. Yeah, I thought about that when I was watching it, which was such a friggin' awesome scene. So. Yeah, so Kevin Costner, he's at the atoll. He's about to get turned into sludge and be composted. That's when the smokers show up. Dennis Hopper and all his grand, whatever. And this war breaks out. It's huge. It's massive. It, big in scale. And in the middle of it, as he's sinking into the abyss and to the compost, he is saved by Helen and Enola, which is alone spelled backwards, which is kind of the dorkiest reason for a name I've ever heard in a movie. And I knew as soon as I heard it, I was like, there's something to that name. I'm like, oh God, that was it. I'm such an idiot. Which I still don't even know what that was supposed to mean, honestly.
Yeah. Well, she's alone from the rest.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. So, so Kevin Costner saved by, Helen and Nola. And the agreement is, hey, if we save you, you got to take us with us. So they're like, oh yeah, you can come with me. They do this amazing thing to get out. They blow out Dennis Hopper's eye, and then they get on the boat with him, and they're like, wow, we should have just let him die because he is a massive, massive dick.
Yeah, they learned right off the bat. They thought they were going to have it bad with the smokers there, and then they get with Kevin Costner. You know what's one thing I got to say before, because now the next act of the movie, because this is the movie's like almost one of those ones, like the first hour is like the atoll. I mean, you get that great intro battle scene too, actually, and then you go to the next hour, which is literally just the three of them pretty much out on the sea. It's funny how like for as big of a set the atoll is that you don't come. There's never like they didn't use it like later in the movie. Like you're surprised that like, I mean, I know that like it breaks down in there, and of course the smokers destroy pretty much everything in it. But it's kind of weird to build that whole thing and be like, oh, we're only going to really actually use this for about 40 minutes.
Well, real quick, not to get too far off what we were talking about, but I might be confused about this. But what I was reading is that there was another faction and another atoll that they built that they completely took out of the film. So there was like another group of people, I guess, that another atoll that they go to, and that one just was scrapped completely. Yeah,
I think because the special features, I haven't watched them since like when I first got that Blu-ray, but I want to say I thought they built two of them for filming reasons, and then they were almost there at one point was going to go somewhere else, and then like it sort of changed. But I think they did use. I think they built two of them just for if like one got kind of destroyed too. Like they literally spent no expense, just like
they did get destroyed. Yeah. I'm not really sure what happened with that. It does seem like there was at one point in time they had two for like a spare no expense type of thing, but also I think there was an idea of another faction of people that they were going to throw in there in the second act, another atoll that they go to. But this film, people say it's kind of boring and dull. That second act, where they're on the boat together, I loved it.
I do too.
Favorite parts of the film.
It's one of those ones like it definitely the action calms down, and it's mostly just the three of them, like almost like you guys in a family drama on top of a boat sailing in the God knows where. But I think that's almost like, and that's the thing is I think, when you build up all that action, you kind of expect more action, and more. This is the part where you're just learning about characters. You're learning about like little tidbits of the world, because in this process, like you get those really cool scenes. Like I love that one too, where Kevin Costner takes Helen. He's like, you want to see dry land? I'll show you dry land. And then he dives down and, brings her in that little, like, submarine that he's built.
It's just kind of ridiculous, but it's cool.
It literally looks like something that you would have built like as a kid, where you're like, I'm going to go down the bottom of my pool, and hang out for the rest of the day, and like hope that like our parents don't think we've drowned. Or actually hope we don't drown. Yeah, exactly. One of those things. Like that's what it kind of reminds me of. Like when you like as kids, you'd grab a raft and drag it, weight it down and try to bring it down with the air still inside of it. But like you get that where it's like he goes down, it's like here's the like look at here's the city, here's all the stuff that like this is the world that it was, and kind of like really opening her eyes and being like, oh wait a second, I thought we were just living on water this whole time, like everything's covered and buried, and this is where he finds all his interesting artifacts that he's got scattered throughout his boat and his collection. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think? Like I was just thinking the Little Mermaid the whole time. Every time it's a dingo hopper. Yeah. Oh man, thingamabobs, I got 20. Yeah, it's kind of like a Little Mermaid thing going on, but yeah. So he's on the boat. The little girl finds 500-year-old crayons that work just fine, and she's drawing all over the boat. And she's got like that was a neat character thing I liked about her, that all the characters are annoyed by it in the film, but she compulsively draws, and it's always imagery of like dry land stuff that these people don't quite get.
And like Kevin Costner kind of understands it because he's, got he's got a National Geographic subscription that's 500 years old, that's been submerged in water. I don't know how many times. And it just,
Yeah, those National Geographics, I tell you, they're made out of strong paper. They really killed some trees for those.
Did you notice the Pepsi thing? Did you notice the Pepsi, like advertising? Where they went down to the city and there was a Pepsi can down there, like obviously a Pepsi can.
Yeah, just hanging out 500 years later.
Pepsi did not do if there was a movie that had a budget over $30 million, they're gonna find a way to stick a fucking Pepsi in that goddamn movie. Like they were like, and I love Pepsi, but that was their whole thing in the 90s. But when I saw the Pepsi can, I'm like, fucking cool. Like, what's he gonna find? Like, so this is a Taco Bell wrapper.
Cracks it, it opens, just starts drinking it down there.
Oh man, he says, "Oh man, 500-year-old Pepsi is so much better than 500-year-old Coca-Cola."
Yeah,
just like I was like,
oh, Dad's root beer.
Yeah, god damn, I couldn't believe it. I saw the Pepsi can. I'm like, oh, of course, which I don't know if made it theatrical or not, but yeah, I mean, I got one behind me for this reason. I'm sorry, other side,
yeah, mirrored,
yeah, but yeah, I just thought that was funny, but yeah, she's drawing all over his boat. He's getting pissed off, and like, I just like how he's just so casually an asshole. Like he's eating that tomato in front of him, and then he cuts it in half. Like, okay, he's gonna give him the other half, and then he cuts that half into halves, and he still eats it. And then they're like going to get the seeds. Like, oh, all that's left is like the residue from the seeds, and they get so close to it, and he sops that up too.
That's, I mean, the whole time he's just being an ass. He's being like, and nobody could drink my piss water.
Yeah, that was all of a sudden piss water is hilarious. I love how they do that in the movie. But like he just pees in it, drinks his pee, pees again, and recycles the same pee. He's been drinking the same pee for, forever.
Yeah, well, it's one of those ones like, without recycling, you can drink your pee 7 times in a row before like it goes like, I guess, poisoned or whatnot. So if you're ever like out, stuck in the middle of the wilderness and you've ran out of water and and then you can also, this is the one thing that nobody ever says, but you can literally drink a pint of seawater a day and still be fine. You just gotta watch out how much you drink, So you can drink, a bit of that every single day if you ever got stuck out at sea. You just can't drink too much of it.
I also watched a thing on Survivor Man. I love Survivor Man, and he made water one time. He did like all this stuff and condensation and blah blah blah. I don't know. He made water.
Yeah,
you could do it on a small scale, which is kind of what's going on there. But yeah, he drinks his own piss. He basically gets a piece.
I love how that's the intro of the movie too. I like that's how this movie opens up. Is literally Kevin Costner's peeing into a jug and then filtering it and then drinking it all in one long tank.
Yeah. That's perfect opening to the movie. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. But the whole dynamic with him on the boat, how he's such a dick to the little girl, tells her to stop stealing his crayons like he's a 5-year-old child, throws him off the boat. But what's even more dickish about the whole thing is that they're literally starving, and they won't shut up about it. Like, we want food. And he's like, oh, you bitches. And then he goes out and gets them the biggest fucking fish. It literally took him 3 minutes to get them as much food as they've ever eaten in their entire lives. And he just let them starve anyway. That was my favorite thing. I was like, oh God, he could just got a giant fish this whole time. And
yeah, it's like one of those ones. Like it seems like he does this on the regular. Like he's got the secrets down.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's like you could have just that giant piece of blubber he just throws down.
Yeah, he's like, oh, here, we'll make some sashimi right here.
That was probably literally the most they've ever eaten.
Yeah, they've never seen that ridiculous amount. I mean, they got to wait for somebody to die to get some fertilization going.
Yeah, that was another disappointing thing though about the film is like the wildlife, like the sea creatures, because they kind of imply that now they've turned into monsters, like they're just because it's just ocean, and just their world now. So you get the one fish you do see is massive, but then you don't really see
you don't see anything else. You don't see anything else till you see a seagull later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
and a horse. Like that's the thing is like, I will say it's that weird one where it's like this movie's got like the biggest budget ever, but you're almost like, man, you would like to see almost more of how this world could go. It does sort of, it's almost that weird thing that they almost probably could have not even had that mutant fish in there. And then it would just you would never even question that. You know what I mean? That mutant fish makes you go, man, now what else are we going to see later in this movie? And since
That's true.
It's almost one of those scenes that probably shouldn't have been in there. He should have just caught a regular fish or whatever. Like he could have done the same thing. He could have just dove down, went down, punched a dolphin, threw it up on board. Really made people. It's Kevin Costner's character. He's not going to go down and get a tuna. What do you think he's getting?
Punch a dolphin. What's funny is he made friends with a dolphin on this movie. Kevin Costner did. He had a dolphin named Noodle. He became friends with, and he fed him shrimp.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, he didn't punch him.
Yeah, he didn't punch him. Right, tried to feed the little girl to the dolphin at one point, but
just picture Kevin Costner cocked back, waiting for this dolphin just to pop up to get some air. Pow!
There you go. Eat that.
Punk ass bitch. Yeah. So it's the second act of them stuck on the boat, learning to like each other. It does culminate in a really pretty scene that I'm pretty sure was cut theatrically. I read the scene where he's got the CD player. And so if you've only seen the theatrical version, you've probably never seen this. He's got like a little CD player that still works, even though it's 500 years old, that's hooked up to a battery that still works, even though it's 500 years old. Just don't worry about it.
That's okay. He's got his windmill that produces energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his little windmill that produces energy. And he's listening to basically your Spotify late night jazz playlist that, but out there on the ocean, it's just something really romantic about it, really nice. And he's finally opening up and being less of a dick to, Helen and the Enola. And she comes over and has a conversation with him. And that was one of the best character moments. I thought that was done so well. Mm-hmm. And for them to cut that out, I was like, that's really stupid. That was a good scene.
Well, and that's the thing is that's the majority of like the stuff that's cut out is all that stuff on the boat because, that first hour pretty much, I don't think any of that first hour, there might be maybe some extended scenes and some other little things in there, but that first hour is generally about from the regular movie. And the second they're back on the ocean, like that part in the theatrical version is actually kind of short. Like, it's almost like they're only out in the ocean for like a half an hour instead of an hour, and you don't have a lot of the other stuff. I mean, there's some extra Dennis Hopper stuff too. Some, other things he sort of says that kind of extends that. But I think those ones are more extended scenes, less
added stuff.
Yeah, they're not full cut scenes, but instead they add like, okay, well, Dennis Hopper had a handful of more lines here, or some of the characters around him did in the smoker den.
Yeah, the second act is really good. Like we mentioned before, you can get rid of the scene. There's this Bath Salt Robin Williams guy that he looks like Robin Williams, acts like him, but like imagine him on bath salts. Yeah. And they pull up on this other boat and they're going to barter. And Helen encourages Kevin Costner, the mariner, to barter because they're hungry. They want some food. And this guy ends up on the boat and he agrees to, yeah, you can have 45 minutes with a lady. Give me that piece of paper that I don't know how to read, and I'm going to give you 45 minutes down below with this lady. And then he changes his heart and goes in there and kills the guy, Bath Salt's Robin Williams. And that was the scene. And you could take it out, but it is a lot more character building in there,
Yeah. So, and then it does add that kind of creepy factor of that, like when you're out on the ocean here and you run into somebody. You never know really what you almost can't trust anybody. I mean, that's even kind of dictated in the very first scene in the movie where that one dude robs his limes right off the bat, thinking, that you can't trust anybody out here. Yeah,
it's a very dog eat dog out there, which of course it would be, in a dystopian hellscape that's covered in water. But all that character building just makes for a better movie. You're more invested in the characters. I thought the performances were good with them too. I mean, and the chemistry between, Kevin Costner and, Gene Tripplehorn, I thought was good. So yeah, that second act was great. I actually liked it. And then they come up at one point. The only thing I didn't like, there's that one point where they come up on Dennis Hopper's character and they got the dead bodies up there and he's using like strings to make them wave. Mm-hmm. And she thinks that Kevin Costner was going to sell her to them. But I didn't get that impression from. So
no,
yeah.
I don't know if it's supposed to be like that was maybe, I didn't really either. Like maybe that was his initial plan or something like that. I felt like that was just like, he was just going there once again to trade again. And then she got kind of like, wait a second, like the last time you almost sold me to like the knockoff Robin Williams guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That whole scene was kind of weird, but when they finally, end up capturing Enola and they take her to the smoker's hideout, that scene with Dennis Hopper talking to her and kind of creep her out is so good. Like Dennis Hopper is so engaging. Like when he's talking in this movie, then when he has screen time, that's all you're focused on. Like he is really chewing up the scenery. I like him better. I thought he was better in this than he was as Bowser. This is.
Oh yeah, no, I think this is like that one where it's just like he's so primed in this, and that's the thing. It's just like this is that good era of like Dennis Hopper's sort of comeback from like the late '80s, because it's like he got kind of booted out from like the '70s to like the mid '80s. He just wasn't really allowed to be in a whole lot of stuff. And then it's like this is his good comeback part where he's just getting all these great roles, even though most of them are all villainy kind of roles. But man, he does so good of a job at it. And just the way his character is, the way he looks. I like that. It's like when he's got the eye patch on, it's just kind of cool. It's like, oh, it's just a swim goggles where he's just using one of the dark lenses as like the eye patch, and it's strapped across his head.
Yeah, actually, I thought it looked to me like a football face, like a chin guard. This is kind of what it looked like to me.
Oh, see, I always thought it was like goggles because it's missing one lens and then it's got the other lens that goes across.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell. I thought it was maybe the strap.
Maybe. I didn't even think about that, but maybe that could, at this point, it could be anything.
Yeah. I like, that whole thing with the character shooting his eye out and having him have the patch on there's extra piety. And, he's just a good leader of a motorcycle gang. He's just, that's what he is. He's the head Hell's Angel, and they're just a bunch of ravenous people. So they capture the girl. One thing that we didn't mention is, the Michael Jeter's character. When they're at the atoll, he's the one guy who's really sympathetic to Helen and Enola. And he's kind of this wacky inventor guy. It doesn't flush him out very well. It doesn't flush out his relationship to those two girls very well. And what exactly he is. But he has made this giant balloon, and the two girls almost get on it, but he gets away and he can't stop it. So he's just kind of like floating through the air. And so at one point, they're stranded. Kevin Costner and Gene Sherperhorn, Helen's character, they do it because what else are you going to do? They're going to die, in the middle of the ocean. And then the guy on the balloon shows up and saves them. And that's where they find another atoll that they're starting to build, like a new atoll. And like
just like 6 canoes strapped together.
Yeah. Which is probably how they all started anyway.
Yeah.
But so they're starting this new atoll. They're just kind of floating through the, God, this is so, how bored would you be?
Yeah. Just like, God, yeah. It's one of those ones, like, it's like you get why Kevin Costner's like, no, I'm going back out to sea. God forbid is anyone going to, like, get me to stay down here.
Yeah, F that. But what it leads to is the third act and the final battle scene, which is good. It's not as good as the other one. Yeah. Well, but it is really good.
It is. Once you have the other one, it's kind of hard to like, how do you top that? The first battle, the atoll battle scene. But it is cool the way that the smokers kind of live is that they're just living on this giant barge that's a big old oil tanker. And that's how they get all their fuel. And that's how they get all the stuff that, they can fly the planes and, motorboat it and all that stuff. And the cool thing about it is that, like, I like how they've set it up that it's almost like this rustic, like, Viking ship. There's a bunch of oars sticking out the side of it, so when they need to move it around and all this stuff, and it's just filled to the brim with Jack Daniels and cigarettes somehow, some way.
Yeah, and they've kind of, the old captain, they've kind of recognized as a deity, and which is hilarious to me because his picture's up there and they kind of think that he's like this god or whatever, because that's something we haven't really touched on. They're kind of religious zealots, they believe that their job is kind of to bring back the old world, I guess, to an extent. It doesn't really flesh that out very well, but they're kind of a religious cult too.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the cool thing about that action scene is more of the Kevin Costner sneaking around the boat, being badass and like sneaking up behind people. Because, you know, it feels like he's just like on another plane of like evolution altogether. Not only does he have gills, but he's just better, faster, stronger, smarter than everybody too. Because he just kind of slices through that boat like butter on his way to save Enola and his confrontation with Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, he just goes up there and whatnot and just like doesn't care. He's got a flare. He's gonna blow the living daylights out of all their oil.
That was the CGI flyer.
Yeah,
is that?
Yeah, that's where they used all that. I think I almost want to say the special features. That was like one of the first times that there's a couple CG things in that whole scene there that was like almost like the first time that they've ever done that on a major motion picture. Like I almost want to say the fire was a very brand new thing right there. Even though I want to say there's still fire in T2 that's CG, but like still like whatever it was like that with that, and then there was a couple other things that go along with it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
like when they
they just got some extra CG. Like also, I think some of the background stuff is actually that's like one of the first times they ever changed background stuff out as well too. Like in that on that boat scene and so on like that.
Yeah, that whole scene was amazing where he finally confronts him and, you know, blows the shit out of the boat, drops the flare down there and causes all this chaos. And you know, there's the big fight scene. And one person we didn't mention was like there's this second creepy guy other than Dennis Hopper. I can't remember what his character's name. But he's got a really cool look. He kind of reminds he is the most Mad Max character in all of it. Is oh gosh, what is his name?
Like the guy who's got kind of like the lion
mane,
long hair. Yeah, that's what he literally has. That like he's almost Nord. He's like second in charge. He's almost like a medieval sort of like villain.
Yeah, he is really, he hates Kevin Costner. He tries to, you know, swindle him at the beginning of the movie, and Kevin Costner gets kind of the best of him. So he's kind of like a personal vendetta against him a little bit, and kind of feels like he's playing his own game, like he's even eventually playing Dennis Hopper's character, you know, Deacon out of his plan too. So, but yeah, he's a really, really good villain, very, very imposing guy. But yeah, Kevin Costner confronts them, blows the shit out of the boat, rescues Enola. Then it's got the kind of John Woo thing going on where like, oh, he saved her. Nope. Plane crashed. Oh, he saved her again. Nope. We're going to shoot her out of the boat, you know? And then the way Deacon dies kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie. The three jet skis collide together. Kind of.
Yeah. And the weird bungee jumping with just a regular piece of rope.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't that don't, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those ones. Just I feel like a little bit of suspension of disbelief will make it go a little bit farther than it should. But yeah, that scene's one of those ones where I've always kind of thought that one was a little bit too. I think it's that might be like one of those ones convenient. Like somebody wanted to try out some new like special effects. That's really what happened there. They're like, hey, we can do this really cool thing that nobody's ever done before, and it's like one of those ones like probably a simpler, cooler like fight would have just done the trick. And
yeah.
Or even realistically, I always thought this way: skip the rope. If he would have just dove out, that would have been just badass enough. As she goes down, and he's like, "Well, you know, I'm the fish man. I'm just gonna literally high dive out of this helicopter thing, and I don't need the rope. You guys can just come pick me up again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, pick us up out of the water. Like, he dives down, takes out Dennis Hopper, however, and then grabs Enola. They, you know, come by and get re-picked up again. That would have been almost kind of probably more interesting.
See, earlier in the film, what I thought was going to happen, because I could not remember the end of this. And what I thought was going to happen, he's setting up this, you know, he tells her not to touch that gun. And I thought that was going to be a thing that continued on. And then that was how she was going to kill Dennis Hopper at the end of it. Like he's about to get him and Enola and all of a sudden spear through the head, you know. That would be pretty badass too. But
yeah, she saves him like almost like after the final thing.
Yeah. Like everything kind of coming full circle. But yeah, so there you go. Dennis Hopper's dead. And well, okay, Deacon is dead. Dennis Hopper's literally dead now.
Yeah.
But not in the movie. And then you get to, so now they're going for finding dry land. It's kind of boring how they get there. Then they get there, and this is definitely a part I'd never seen before, because I feel like in the movie I saw, it was very, very different how they find dry land. And it was very quick. It was like, oh, we're here. And then it was over. This is definitely more extended. And this is where you find out why it's the Ulysses cut. But it's kind of corny too.
Well, it's kind of weird because this is like the fourth act of the movie, and I kid you not, I did check because I thought that too. I was like, I think the theatrical version, I'm like, because I was almost thinking, I'm like, does the theatrical version, do they even find the dry land, or is that just where it cuts the credits? It actually does go through a lot more of that scenes than I remember in the theatrical cut, because I put that disc in afterwards just to take a look, and there is some like extended scenes in there and some longer in between stuff, but the majority of that stuff all still happens in the original version, which I didn't, for some reason, I almost pictured that movie ending pretty much like right after they defeat, Dennis Hopper, and then they get to dry land or whatever. And that's kind of about it. Because it really becomes almost like it's a short act, but it's like a fourth act, really.
Yeah, I feel like there is a cut that is very short like that, because I've felt the same way too. I didn't remember any of that. And, like I'm like you, I pretty much only watched this off television. I don't think I ever watched a DVD or VHS of this ever. I think it was always just, it's on TNT or wherever they showed. I think they showed on TNT a lot. But yeah, I just didn't remember that. I remember them finding the plaque that says, spoiler, the dry land is Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And I feel like they get there, they see that plaque, and then that was it. That's what I remember. I don't remember the horses or the houses, the little huts they found. I'm assuming that was supposed to be Enola's parents.
Yeah, because you go in there and like it shows all like the same tattoos and so on like that. Like they're drawing all those papers there, and she recognizes the musical box.
Okay, well, what happened to them?
Well, yeah, that's what I kind of thought too, because it's like the weird thing is unless there was like some disease and they just like chucked her off, like, the baby and Willow right off the it almost feels more like she was lost at sea, and that's what happened there. That because there's a lot of stuff here you got to almost kind of like piece together your own version, because that seems like a long distance to travel from and just in a carriage if you're not lost at sea. It would make more sense if the parents kind of like they're like, let's just say they were taken down in a hurricane or something like that, and she happened to be the only survivor of like once the ship all broke up, and that's how she kind of got to the to the civilization and so on like that. But here it looks like almost like they almost died of like a disease or something like that, or something happened. She's
like Superman, like they chuck her out instead of space, the open sea.
Yeah,
and she's kind of like special. But like, when they defeat Deacon, it takes them forever to get to dry land. Like it seems like they're starving and almost dying, and then they see the little bird, and then dry land. So it's like, well, how the fuck did she make it there in that basket, like without food or drink, or it doesn't? And then what killed the parents? Like, why did they send her away? Like, is this dry land okay? Like, it's like, is this actually a death sentence to everybody? So they just made it more confusing. They should have definitely not shown that in there at all. Like, huts that there was a previous civilization here, but it's not there anymore. It's still kind of iffy, because you're like, okay, well, why did they all die? But whatever.
No, yeah. Well, I think that this movie is supposed to have some of those, like, it's not supposed to explain everything, really, which I do kind of give it sometimes credit for doing that, because I think that does kind of work. Some movies I don't like when they do that. I feel like, no, it's your story. You tell me, Yeah. But this one does almost, at the same time, though, it does make me feel like, gosh, it is one of those kind of concepts that you could really run with this again, like whether if you had a Waterworld 2, or even, I hate to sort of say, I don't think you wouldn't be able to, I just feel like it wouldn't be done right. But let's just say if it was done right, if this movie had a remake to it, would be kind of an interesting one to see, like how you could do that.
I would advocate for a remake for this. I think there's some things that, listen, I'm pro practical effects, but again, I think there's some things about CGI that would make this movie a lot easier to film. But yeah, I'm with you though. I'm fine with mystery. I don't think everything needs to be answered. I'm not one of those people, but there's a difference between not answering a question and then introducing an idea that contradicts everything else and makes it more confusing. And that was a lot of the stuff when they get to that island or Mount Everest.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what are you trying to say here? But in the movie, they get there, and then Mariner leaves, and you don't want him to.
But you know what? I sort of get it. Like when he leaves, I'm like, I get it. You know what I mean? This is what he knows. And if you could go swimming deep down in the ocean with no scuba gear or anything like that, why would you want to be on land? Let's be honest. Like, you're king of the sea. He's literally Aquaman.
He is Aquaman. But see, you could like live on the outskirts of the island and, be out in the ocean, kind of come and go back and then come get but it's so hard to get water. It's so hard to get food. It's so hard to do all these things. So I don't care if you have gills or not. Like, you have fresh water there in abundance, just falling off the mountain. Mm-hmm. Like, you stay there and, enjoy that. Enjoy that fresh water. But, it's, I don't know, I have mixed feelings on it. But that's where in the extended cut or the Ulysses cut, that's where she's really sad that he's leaving, but she gives him a name, and that name is Ulysses.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. She uses the Roman version, not Odysseus, the Greek version.
Well, Ulysses just sounds better, I think.
No, yeah, I think that does, especially for like that there too. And then he's like, see ya, out of here, but I almost feel like it sounds kind of weird. Like, that's almost set up well where like it could end right there, but it could 100% be a sequel where he comes back. You know what I mean? I think that you could totally have, let's just say you had Waterworld 2 and it came out in like 99, and you could see Kevin Costner comes back. They got a little bit of a civilization going there, of whatever. Maybe, and maybe because, he says, hey, if I find anybody else, he could come back with like a party of other people. And then you could start to have this sort of mixed match of like, there's dry land and now there's people coming to take over dry land. And that could be where the conflict starts to become, now there's a war for dry land. Yeah.
That's where they would have went with it. And you could definitely see where they could have turned this into a franchise if they didn't go way over budget. And this film was not intended to be the most expensive movie ever made. It just became that.
Yeah.
It's like a pain in the ass. But if this film would have stayed on budget and they would have heeded the advice from Steven Spielberg and not do what they did, then I could see this film I think it would have been really profitable.
Yeah.
And I think that they would have probably made a sequel or two. So,
well, and it's so weird how with movies, especially, the profit thing almost affects the reviews and the ratings of movies. It's one of those ones. It's like that's the most like illogical thing ever. But like, if a movie just doesn't make money, it's just considered a bad movie. Like, it could be the best movie ever, but if it doesn't make money, it's like, well, it must be a 1 out of 4 movie. Like, can't be that good. Then didn't make money. It's like, it's just such a weird thing that people don't see that. Like, hey, don't know this. And I'm not saying that this movie's still actually, like, I feel the majority of people would still say this movie's pretty solid. I think it still has a pretty strong cult following. And, I mean, there's always going to be like naysayers no matter what. But it's that weird thing that money sometimes makes a movie. Like, if a movie makes a ton of money, it's automatically a 4 out of 4 movie. It doesn't matter, even if it's not that great of a movie. But,
Well, word of mouth in the 90s and 80s and 70s meant more than it does today, because today you get a movie, you get like 8 trailers, you get all these things that are released, all these interviews that are released on the internet at your whim whenever you can see it. Sometimes back in the day, unless you had like Entertainment Weekly, you would see a trailer for a movie and then you're like, it piques your interest and you don't see anything else about it again until the TV spots hit, and then you go to the movie. And you couldn't just watch those whenever you wanted to. You had to wait for them to see it on TV. So back then, word of mouth was a big deal. So when the critics decided that they hated this movie before it even came out, so I think I read in IMDb, somebody speculated that the critics cost this movie probably about $50 million.
Yeah.
Which,
Well, they talked about that in the special features too. They're like, the critics were the ones that really screwed over the movie more than anything else, because they just wanted to hate it. It was just something that, like, Kevin Costner, they want to throw him under the bus. Just these epic movies in general were kind of like, there was just an anti going on for these kind of big budget action films.
Yeah. And It's really sad because this film was pretty good. It could have been better. There definitely could have done some rewrite stuff in there. I read that Joss Whedon, this is a common theme. Joss Whedon shows up and starts rewriting stuff, and then it's either listened to or completely ignored. Yeah. In this case, it was completely ignored. And I would be interested to see some of the ideas he had to, make the script a little better. Because a lot of times that stuff entails also scaling things back and, saving money.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's funny because he came in to try to rewrite Kevin Costner stuff, but this is also the era too where Kevin Costner starts to become kind of a dick. And actually, it just reminds me there was a dude that I met a while back. Well, it was like 10 plus years ago or something, but he was a stuntman guy, and he did like a crap ton of stunts, but like the one that like really stood out to me is because he's the driver and Steve McQueen's Bullet. So all the scenes where Steve McQueen's driving through San Francisco, well, he's the stunt driver that drives all those ones in there. And his name was Lauren. I'm trying to blank on his last name, but I remember like somebody asked a question because it was one of my old teachers from like high school, like somehow, some way got him for like a younger class, like way past the time I was there. But he's like, dude, you should come on by. I got this cool stuntman guy. I'm like, okay, cool. And some of the kids, I was like, well, who was like one of the people you hated working with? And he said Kevin Costner was like the biggest dick that he worked with.
Wow.
So that might have been also now that I think I start putting all those things together, this could have been that era where Kevin Costner kind of gets full of himself. So maybe that's where the critics are like, you know what, screw this guy. He's not that special. Like one of those things like that.
He was very indulgent.
Yeah.
Like Mel Gibson didn't come across that way when he was directing his stuff. Like he trashed himself later, but we're talking about Braveheart era here.
Yeah.
It didn't feel overindulgent, really, but the Kevin Costner stuff does.
Well, it's sort of the same way that like when you hear stories about Stallone and about this era too, like the late 80s, early 90s, when he's kind of being just a dick and everything like that. It's not like Arnold, where everybody always talks highly about Arnold. You know what I mean? Well, most people, but there's always gonna be some outlier. But like I felt like some of those guys, it's like once they kind of get that power surge of being one of the top actors and top directors and writers and all that stuff, because Kevin Costner's kind of in that same boat too. Directing, writing, producing, all that kind of stuff. So he thinks you could kind of see where, hey man, I know what's going on here. Let me tell you how to do this movie. Let me tell you how my character's going to act. Even though you wrote this script.
Well, the funny thing is too, Kevin Reynolds, the director, who had already had a falling out with Kevin Costner directing other movies, was convinced to work with him again, and he said that that Kevin Costner should always be the director of all his films so he can work with his favorite director and his favorite actor. So, I mean,
yeah. Well, because Kevin Reynolds, he also did Robin Hood, like with Kevin Costner. So yeah, there's another one right there that. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that probably is it. It's Kevin Costner's at his like biggest dick moment of. Which he's still putting out great stuff. So at the end of the day, like, what I always feel like the movie that ends up on like the disc at the very end, like tells all, but
yeah, he just did Yellowstone. He was good in Yellowstone too. He's really good in that. So,
oh yeah.
I mean, so he's kind of playing Kevin Costner, but no
matter what, like I always like a good Kevin Costner movie. I don't care. Like there's he has so much great stuff. Whenever I see Kevin Costner, especially when I went Waterworld, I'm like, that's what I feel like my hair looks like when I go in the water. like I literally think about it. I'm like, I feel like I literally have the Kevin Costner like hair. Like that's what I see every single time I see one of his movies.
I just have the bangs sort of like down here. I look like that character that Garth Brooks tried to do, that Chris Gaines guy, where he tried to make this thing and it just didn't work out. Oh my gosh. Where are the bodies, Garth?
See, I feel like I have the mixed match of like pretty much the Kevin Costner like hairline / I look like the British villain in an American movie. What are those kind of things?
Yeah, I look like Great Value brand Michael Madsen. But anyway, but yeah. Like a young one. Now he's just beyond, but
yeah. Hey, anyway, young Michael Madsen's a good looking guy there. So
yeah, War Games. He was in the beginning of War Games.
Yeah,
small part. Yeah. But anyway, Waterworld, Ulysses Cut.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch it for free if you want to, or you can go pay $50 for a Blu-ray, whatever you want to do. It's your choice.
Yeah.
But it is on Internet Archive if you want to watch it. Maybe I'll put a link. Maybe I won't. I don't know how much I want people to go look at that, because then they might take it down.
Yeah, they might take it down, because that's the only place you can watch that Ulysses Cut unless you want to buy it on that disc. There's no other way. It's not streaming anywhere. You can't rent it on Amazon. Yeah, if they didn't have it on the archive, we probably wouldn't have even done this episode, I feel like, because it would have been like, I don't know how I'm going to get this movie to you.
Yeah, it did suck for me because I pretty much had to watch it on my phone. I tried to watch it on my laptop, but it was just difficult with, I'm always with kids and stuff. So that ended up being the best way for me to watch it. But you can also download it and put it in the Plex and play it anywhere, which that's what I was going to do. So, but yeah, Waterworld, Ulysses Cut, go watch it. Let us know what you think about Waterworld. Definitely we'll be spending more time on social media in the next few weeks. So, trying to get more engagement and get everybody involved with the podcast and kind of build a community and get everybody's opinions. So let us know what you think about Waterworld. If you have any disagreements, you can find us on TikTok at Via VHS, on X at Via VHS, Instagram at Via VHS Pod. As always, you can go to oldmanorange.com to find all the stuff that Spencer does. Old Man Orange Podcast, Pizza Boys Comic, Pizza Boys with Z.
That's Boys with a Z.
Boys with a Z. You find all that stuff there. But thanks for listening. Let us know what you think about Old Waterworld. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Nah, I think we got quite a bit of it going there on how great of a film this is, and Hidden Treasure classic that was one of the biggest movies at one point, but is kind of a slightly lost in time film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Waterworld. It's just because it also doesn't have a whole lot of re-releases. That's the weirdest part about it too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's like a giant, big budget movie that's treated like a cult B movie. It's a weird thing. But yeah, go watch Waterworld, Ulysses Cut, or the theatrical cut, whatever you want to watch. But thank you for listening. Y'all have a good one. And Via VHS is out.